One of the things that we can learn from Leonardo da Vinci is how he weaved two different domains together in order to create something that has a very long lasting value. For example, in his The Vitruvian Man, he not only drew a man, but he was trying to portray that a human body fits into a deeper structure of the universe by inscribing that man into a circle and a square. Now, I took this understanding that I have about Leonardo da Vinci and I tried to apply into how I teach about how to overcome panic attacks. And I have tried to weave Eastern spirituality to Western spiritual leaders. Western spiritual leader like Neville Goddard has said that imagination creates reality. He has also written a book about feeling is the secret. But this has all been already said by Eastern spiritual mystics like Osho, Vivekananda, and so many other wonderful spiritual masters like Paramhamsa Yogananda. And what I decided to do was I decided to steal the concept of Yoga Nidra and combine the concept of Yoga Nidra with imagination creates reality. Now, if you learn how to do Yoga Nidra properly and how to use your imagination properly, then it's almost certain that you are going to come out of panic attacks. By the way, when I started out in my journey of healing my panic attacks, I was training to become a doctor in Nepal. I had a reputation to protect, I had a future to build, all of those pressure, and I still did not give in to therapy or anxiety pills because I knew they were not going to treat the root cause. So I decided to turn inwards. I decided to study about spirituality, about human mind, about manifestation, and all of these things. So before learning about Yoga Nidra and before learning about how imagination creates reality, you need to understand the concept of Maya. Maya, as yogis have referred to this personal reality of ours, is a magical lie. Your external reality that you see through your five senses, perceive through your five senses, is a lie, is an illusion. It is Maya. Why is it Maya? Because your external reality is just an extension of your own mind. The content of your mind determines what type of external reality you're going to live in. If your mind has a lot of terrible mental imagery, a lot of bad feelings, a lot of terrible belief system, then you are going to have a lot of tragic circumstances in your life. And don't blame yourself for having a lot of terrible content in your mind, because when a child is born and he reaches to the age of 8 to 9, his brain is primarily creating these slow, coherent theta waves and very hypnotizable brain waves. That's when he learns the emotional patterns, the thinking patterns, the limiting belief from his family, from his parents, from his society members, from his schooling. Then he grows up to become an ordinary member of the society, or even if he becomes a high performing member of the society, he still has all of those limiting beliefs. Of course, he is going to be sick because he was programmed by a sick society, a society that does not know that this external reality of ours is an extension of your own mind. But now that you're exposed to this deep yogic concept, it is time to rewrite new program in your mind. And now, if you can rewrite new program in your mind, you are going to attract wonderful circumstances. You will no longer wake up with heart palpitation, with racing thoughts in your head. Your friends and family will stop worrying about you. The girl who left you for another guy will say to her friends, "Oh my god, Mark just became the man of my dreams. And the sad part is, he's now out of my league." If you want all of these things to happen to you, even though the girl part is pretty vain aspiration, you must learn the art of Yoga Nidra and the art of imagination. Now, Yoga Nidra simply means to Become still for at least 10 to 15 minutes and putting your awareness all over your body part one by one until you achieve a state of sleepiness or a sense of relaxation. That's also when you create slow, coherent alpha waves and theta waves in your brain. That's when you can visualize things very easily. That's also when you can impress all of those visualization scenes in your mind. You create the brainwave patterns of a child in Yoga Nidra consciously. Now you can program yourself. Now, after doing Yoga Nidra, what you're going to do is create an imaginal act that signifies to your mind that you're now free from panic attacks. And when you create this imaginal act, provide all the sensory vividness to your imaginal act. For example, right now, if you cannot drink coffee because of panic attacks and anxiety, create an imaginal act where you're taking coffee, you're smelling the aroma of coffee, you're tasting the bitterness of coffee, and you're saying to yourself, wow, I'm finally healed because I now can indulge in coffee. Create an imaginal act where you're waking up in the morning and you just have a big smile on your face and you're saying to yourself, I'm now finally free. I no longer have panic attacks. Create an imaginal act where you're dating a girl, you're kissing her, you're touching her hair, you're smelling her perfume, you're hearing her say to you wonderful things about yourself, like, oh my God, you're so peaceful and so powerful as a human being. All of these imaginal scenes are going to signify to your mind that you're now actually free from panic attacks. And the more sensory vividness that you can provide to your imaginal act, the real that imaginal act becomes to your brain. Your brain cannot distinguish between a strongly visualized scenario provided with all sorts of sensory vividness and an experience that you face in this three-dimensional world. So your brain will start to create neural networks that correlate with all this imaginal act happening to you in real time. Now, if you can properly hold your attention on this imaginal scene where everything is wonderful for you and where you're living life free from panic attacks, if you can keep your attention on these kinds of imaginal scenes and mentally rehearse them over and over again, the neural networks start to become permanent in your brain, and it is going to send a rush of chemicals in your body towards your body, giving you all sorts of feelings, the feelings that are equivalent to whatever you have imagined. For example, you have imagined that you're now walking into a place that previously used to trigger your panic attack, but now you are having a blast in that room. You are cracking jokes with your friends and family in that room. Of course, you're going to feel the emotions of joy, gratitude, empowerment, and confidence by this scene, if properly visualized and if properly mentally rehearsed. Now, these feelings are going to breathe life into your imaginal act. This is why Neville Goddard said, imagination creates reality. Right now, your imagination might be really weak, but if you provide enough sensory vividness to your imaginal act and you have enough attention, you have a developed attention to hold your imaginal act and mentally rehearse it until you start to feel feelings from it, then that imagination must become reality. What that means is you must become free from panic attacks simply by virtue of those imaginal acts. All of your imaginal scenes will start to actually materialize into existence because you have written new programs in your subconscious mind. The yoga nidra that you just performed before doing this imaginal scene helps you to visualize things clearly, and all of those imaginal acts will actually get stored in the subconscious mind. Unless you change the subconscious mind, nothing in your life is going to change, because mind has 5% of the mind is subconscious and 95% of the mind is subconscious. So what changing of the mind means is actually changing the program in the subconscious mind, and that can only be done when you completely relax through yoga nidra. So you must master these two things, yoga nidra and imagining wonderful things happening to you. Only then you're going to attain freedom from panic attacks. You're going to become a magnet for all sorts of wonderful things in your life. Now, if you want one-on-one personalized coaching from me, then message me on my Gmail or my WhatsApp, which are linked in the description box down below and the pinned comment section down below. Subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.